Hello, welcome once again to Thus Spoke Lord Nashu. Today, I suppose for the past week now, I found myself thinking about apologies and the politics often involved in them. The way you can't just apologize without somebody taking it and twisting it into something that means that they have won some battle that you're not participating in. Apologies should be a moment where we show we can be accountable, show we can change as a person, but instead, they end up being another lost battle in an everlasting war. And the people who should apologize the most are the last ones to do it. I found myself thinking about the politics of apology because I was in a position to apologize. I had done something hurtful, necessary, but hurtful all the same. And my mindset as time went on was that while it may be necessary, it was a bit, no, not even a bit, harsher than it needed to be. When that struck me, we came next with the idea, the very immediate idea, that I should apologize to a degree, but I stopped myself and lingered on it because, again, all I could see was the politics of it all. I gazed into the future, and the only thing I saw was that person taking this apology, going into a covetous space, and twisting this to be, well, some sort of defeat, some sort of failure, in again an everlasting battle. And in that covetous space, they would say, he only apologized because he wants to get something. Or he only apologized because the world has finally started crashing down. These people sitting in this covetous space would rejoice in what they were sure was my downfall. And to avoid playing into their hands, the only thing I could do was never apologize. But that's not in my nature. I'm a man who will change, who has changed. Because were I to go through life remaining the same person I always was, then I would not have gone through life. I would have stopped all those years ago. I would have died all those years ago. And all that I have accomplished since would never have happened. I truly would have lost an everlasting battle. And the people in those covetous spaces, they would go on, never seeing the need to apologize themselves. For the record, they will go on. They can't stop themselves. As sure as I saw that a future where this person went to that covetous space, I knew that it was the only future to be seen. It was the only future available because of the past that led to this moment. But none of that really mattered because it wasn't about them. The apology was about me. It was about my era, my failing. the way I had to grow. And in apologizing, I was letting go of who I was in that moment where I hurt. A thought just came to me, but it slipped my mind just as quickly. Oh, yes. It's why you can apologize, but no one has to accept it. No one has to take your apology and see you as a better person. That apology is about you. And in time, if that person wants to, they can look back and say, you know what? I responded to this the wrong way. Or they can look back and say, that person was never going to change for the better. The apology they gave was merely an illusion, a trick, a means of running from themselves. I did not stir the honey in this tea. A means of running from themselves. Or again, like that covetous space might say, a means of gaining when they were on the verge of loss. We can look back and say, wow. Or rather, they can look back and say, wow, this person is different from who they were all those years ago. Or they can live their lives always saying, that person has never changed. And all of my thought about this, I hadn't thought of a story where I was the one apologized to, but unwilling to accept the apology. Why was I unwilling to accept it? Because at the time, I had not yet accepted how much I was hurt. I had not yet allowed myself to heal, because anger likes to keep you in pain. So by the time this person came around and said, you know what, I am sorry, I was not, well, I was a boy back then, but certainly not the man who could see that apology and accept it. What was her name? I believe it was Melinda. And for as much as it could be a relationship, she was my girlfriend some long, long time ago. My first. Go figure. And the one who, even looking back now, had a lot to teach me in an indirect sort of way. Melinda found me, let's say, boring in no uncertain terms. She had a different idea of what relationships should be, and sure enough, I did as well. We were incompatible in accurate terms. But back then, in the throes of youth, she only saw something boring. And around the corner, just around the bend, she saw something more entertaining. She got involved in that entertainment, and it was this whole dramatic affair that eventually ended with a lot of pain, a lot of loss. And me, in a position I have been in many times before, a position of travel. So I traveled, kind of looking for a new place to call home. And God, I couldn't tell you if it was a year or a few months But I would receive a DM from her apologizing for what happened in the relationship. And I did not outright accept it because I was hurt. And my hurt came in the form of trying my damnedest not to be angry in the moment. Then finally having to accept that I was angry for a good long time. Still, Melinda apologized. And I more or less reflect, uh, alright, phone, more or less rejected that apology. She responded poorly to that rejection, but I think that was necessary too because it was meant to teach her that apologizing isn't always going to be enough. Sometimes that's only the start. Still, she responded if I slapped her. And that was surprising to me because it's like, how could you expect me to respond positively after what has, well, transpired? Still, that would be the last time she and I ever talked. But not the last time I would be in a position where someone would be cruel to me and decide they don't have to apologize. Decide even that they're in the right because, well, I am the most vile and wretched villain. Surely, surely. People like that poison apologies. They first force it into the shape of weakness, the shape of a wound, and they poke and prod at this wound, trying to bleed it, trying to hurt the person who is going to apologize. It's going to apologize because they don't have the strength to do anything else. They will find a wounded soul and force an apology out of them and then stand above them with this undeserved arrogance, as if they are worthy to offer forgiveness. And these people, they will tell on themselves because when they behave like that, it's because they have hurt. They have hurt and they don't want to apologize. So they're rushing to prove that you have hurt them. And then when you apologize, when they force you into that position, they act as if they are benevolent. They act as if they are forgiving, as if the way they hurt you was ultimately the same as basic math. A 2 plus 2 equals 4 sort of situation. They make apology into a weakness. And so they will never do it themselves. They will refuse to do it themselves. They will run from it. And force you to run from it too. That Melinda apologized at all is a show of good character. And for her willingness to do this, I hope that her life turned around. I hope that in being willing to utter that apology, even if it wasn't accepted, she was able to see something about herself and change it for the better. Because most people don't apologize. They'll run from it. They'll take a sorry to their grave. And I always kind of find that funny because so many of them will then say, well, the Christian ones, anyways, will say they'll apologize to God for all the wrongs they did in life. And it's like, damn, you really think this supposed all-powerful and all-knowing being is going to believe your last-minute apology just to keep you from going to the pits of hell? They are the same type of people who sit in covetous spaces and talk about how an apology is only given when somebody wants something. This is the only way they can see an apology. And when you think too much about them, you might ask yourself, why then would I ever apologize? Why then would I ever play the same game as them? Ever give them the satisfaction? I already said it before. It's not really about them. It's about you. While we're on the subject of spirituality, in Buddhism, there is satana. It is intention. And it is, well, one of many elements to be aware of on your path to nirvana. Satana is about what do you put into a thing, into an action, into a word. And if it's truly good, then the karma of that can't be robbed. If you do something in good faith, regardless of how someone else responds to it, it is just a good thing. And the way they respond to it isn't about you. It's about them. So you can see it as a sort of path. You made a mistake before, and you've gone forward and have changed, because life is supposed to change you. You reach a crossroads where you are meant to reflect. And as you sit there, you get a moment. You think to yourself, my path ahead requires that I let go of, let's say, the justification behind it. It does not necessarily mean that you were entirely wrong, because even biblical texts, Christianity, the Abrahamic faith, will tell you that people are meant to be rebuked. But there's a difference between a rebuke and a stoning. And while you can never go back and change who you were in that moment when you hefted that stone, you can recognize that you didn't do the right thing. And in recognizing that, you can continue forward. You reach this point and you say, my intentions at that moment were not entirely good, were not entirely right. I am sorry for who I was and how I was. I have grown. I have changed. But others? Well, it's not about them. You say sorry so that you can step forward and not be held back by this moment. Held hostage by time, vendettas, pain. Sometimes a wound does not heal perfectly. One could argue no wound heals perfectly. Everything leaves a scar in one degree or another. But that scar does not have to be the end of a life. However, it can become one if you leave it unhealed and let it fester, let it get infected and become this thing that needs to be amputated. And if at the point of amputation you still deny the need to treat it, it will eventually come for your life. So I apologized. And I would love to believe that maybe after that apology, this person did not go to those coveted spaces, but took a moment to reflect and see the ways they have to apologize too. But I am sure as the sun will rise tomorrow that they will not. And more sure than that, I know that I can't let that decide how I move. I do not have to trust that person. I do not have to blind myself to the ill in their intent. But I also don't need to be their undoing. I don't need to play that turf war game of apologies where I'd rather tell myself a lie than admit the truth. The truth that I did something wrong. What would I say to that person now? Were they to see this and get up in arms about the idea that I am talking about them when I apologized before, I would say that what I apologized for was my cruelty, but not for the truth. Not for the truth that I said, not for the truth that I am saying now, because it was not necessary to apologize for the truth. It sucks, unfortunately, to think that if you say sorry, somebody's going to read you the wrong way. It sucks to think that you can't apologize without somebody assuming you've lost some great and everlasting battle. It sucks that sorry can't just be sorry in the company, in the presence, when presented to others. But it's not about them. It never will be. And to them going to covetous spaces or what have you, to twist what your apology means, and for them to invite bad karma into their lives. And neither the Buddha nor Christ would tell you that it is your duty to meet their bad karma. No field of psychology would tell you that you have to do the healing for them. They will do that until they learn that there are better things to do. And if they don't learn in this lifetime, they will in the next. That is how this story has long gone. And one day, their story might go a positive way. But for now, you gotta focus on your own. You have to focus on yourself. If sorry is a loss in their world, in their war, then let them live in a world at war. But free yourself from it and walk elsewhere. Figure out what lies beyond the horizon and find the people who can accept a sorry and build something with them. Until next time, I would be delighted, perhaps, if you were to join me once again.